Hello everyone. In the last video, we configure reporting services and we discussed how reporting services or SSRS, which is normally the abbreviation of SQL Server reporting service, how it can help us to build the operational reports or some sort of dashboard reports. But obviously, if we need to build the analytical dashboards, Microsoft has provided a separate tool called Power BI, which we're going to configure in the upcoming video. But hopefully by now you are comfortably configuring and testing the capabilities of the database engine and the SQL Server reporting services. But if you are not following along, what I'm going to do, I'm going to export the virtual machine at the end and upload it on the shared location so you can access and download and use it as it is. So let's move on to the next step. In this video, we're going to configure one of the best service that Microsoft has provided for the data governance and the data quality. Obviously, it's not going to cover the whole data quality subject because data quality is a very broad topic and we only discuss some part of it. But I'm going to show you how we can use this service to address a lot of challenges which are related to data governance and the data quality. So without wasting any time, let's jump into the virtual machine and we'll start configuring the data governance or data quality related service, which is called master data services. Many people think that master data service is only linked with the master data, like we can only manage the master data through a single source of truth. But in reality, it is way more than any master data service because it provides a lot of additional capabilities like the version control system and all the auditing capabilities, as well as the integration. Like if you just want to run the automated job that can refresh the data within the master data services without any human intervention, that is even possible. And we're going to see in one of the demo how we can upload the data automatically at the SQL Server level to our master data services. But let's start with the configuration, because in the previous video we have already installed the master data service. So you can see there's an option in Microsoft SQL Server 2019 which is saying that SQL Server master data services configuration manager. So let's spin it up. Now that's the very first thing that we need to address. You can see master data services require the internet IS services, Internet Information Services, which is more like a role that has been used to host any web application. So web developers and people who are dealing with the web server, they are very familiar what that role is. But people who doesn't know what the IIS is, IIS more like the Microsoft version of a software that provide us the capability to host the website. We have a competitor like Tomcat. The same way you host the website on the Tomcat, Microsoft provide the Internet Information Services to host the website that have been developed in the .NET. So because our interface is going to be the web interface, and that's another beauty of using the master data services, that it is accessible across the enterprise through the web link, and people can interact with our centralized source of truth through web interface. However, that's not the only interface. We're gonna see another great interface that Microsoft has provided as a plugin to one of the famous tool called MS Excel. So if the users are familiar with Excel and they prefer to stick into the Excel environment, they can still use master data services to use the capabilities within the Excel environment. And I'm going to show you how the business can take the ownership of the data and control the data while the data is contributing in the operation of the analytics or any other system within the enterprise. So let's first go and install the Internet Information Service. Let me just, minimize it. I'll go back and because I'm going to configure my local server. Let me hit add role, because obviously Internet Information Service is a role. So we are good. We are going to be role-based or feature-based installation. Let me hit next. Yeah, you can make sure you have selected the server where you want to install, because if you have listed multiple server, make sure you are selecting the right server. Otherwise, you might end up installing on a wrong server. Okay, so let me click next. We are going to, so you can see all these roles which are available as part of the server capabilities. We can install all these roles on our machine. Like we can convert any server into Active Directory domain services. We can convert it into DNS server, DHCP server, but these are not the topic of this video. So I'm not going to, I'm not going to do it. What I'm going to do, I'm going to select web server. So we are going to install Internet Information Service role, which is obviously web server, and I have already selected now. So let me click next. I'm going to install feature.NET Framework 4.7. At this stage, I don't need anything else, because you can see the .NET 4.7 feature is going to be installed, because that is required as part of the functionality of the master data services. So all good in here. I'm not going to change anything here. So I can select a couple of options, but what I'm going to do, I'm going to actually show you that if we install with the default option, what we're going to see. And with the web server, we need to be very careful. It's good to do it in 2 rounds, because we just want to select the services which are needed. It's not like we can click on all options and then let it install those services which are even not required. That's really important from the security perspective, especially within the production environment, because we want to keep less services on our server so we can make it secure and stress-free. So I'm not going to check any additional option at this stage. So if I'm going to face any issue, I'll come back and I'll fix those issues by selecting the right feature. So at this stage, click next. Yeah, we are not going to restart. If it is required, we are going to restart manually, but I can hit install. So the installation progress is now started. It's just gonna wait for a while. It is start installing the Internet Information Services, or you can now call it web server. It shouldn't be long, hopefully. And meanwhile, I'm going to close this because I want to reopen it once the Internet Information Services is done. Minimize it. By the way, keep in mind, in the last configuration, we have already consumed reporting services for our reporting services. So that port, we cannot now reuse it for any other service or purpose, right? That's very important that you guys need to keep in mind, that one port can only be used for one particular purpose, right? If you are going to reuse that port for another purpose, it might impact on the existing one, right? So what we're gonna do, we might need to use a separate port for any additional service that required the port information as well, right? So we will do it as part of the configuration. Now coming back to the installation is good. So you can see the message, installation succeeded, and I'm going to now close it. Now let me go back to 2019 and I'm going to open it up. Now as you can see, we have now different message, because now the internet information services has been installed, but we have now couple of additional errors that we need to fix, and how we can fix it. Let me just put them in the notepad so we can see. Excuse me, we can see. So there are a bunch of features that we need to select, and that's why I mentioned previously that we are going to be very selective with our feature. Like, we are not going to check all the features. We are only going to select those features which are needed for MDS to be functional. That will help us secure our server, because keep in mind, MDS is running on a server that has database engine installed on it, right? So even if in your production you have a setting where you are running the MDS on a similar server as database engine, you can only install those features which are required by the MDS. Now, by saying it, let me now go back to local server management, and now I'm going to install the required features. So if I just keep these two side by side, let's see whether if I can manage. Oops. So the issue in here, it's not showing me. Yeah, much better. I think. Yeah. I'm just adjusting so I can put it side by side for a reference. So let's see. Yeah. Again, we are going to now, we are not going to install a role. We are going to install a couple of features in the existing role. The server is going to be the same. Let me click next. Yeah, we are not going to install anything in here because the server has already been installed. But what we are going to do, click next, and we are ending up in the feature. So in the feature list, let me just open it up. And we need, let me see, HTTP activation. No, we don't need any part of it. We already have the .NET. Let me just, yeah. So we need ASP.NET. WCF. We are, yeah. So I think we are good at this stage. So let me hit next. I think I'm just missing one more thing, which is, let me just go back. Yeah, I think that's a screen where we need to select all these ones. All right. So what we are going to do is select this extensibility. We need IS API filters. So now you can see these two we need to install. We need to install the request. We need to install Windows authentication. Is there? If I scroll a little bit up, all good in here. We don't need web dev, HTTP redirection, dynamic content compression is there. Under the performance, we need to install that. And now I think we are all good. Let me click on that because we need ASP.NET. It's the first in the list. And then it is saying an WCF service HTTP activation. So we need to check the HTTP activation. So I think we are pretty good on this screen. We are not going to install any additional thing. However, we just need to, yeah. So we need to switch on the HTTP activation. So we are good. These are the features which are required for MDS or master data services to be functional. So let's click next, and I believe we have selected almost everything which is needed, and hit install. So now while it is installing, keep in mind that, sometimes we just select the whole thing, like we check the parent option and it select all the option. That's very dangerous, especially from the security perspective within the production environment. So it's always the best practice to install only those features which are needed, and keep the features, especially when it comes to the web interface or web server, keep the features as minimum as you can, particularly if your web server and database server is running on the similar machine, which is normally not a practice in the production environment. But just we are looking everything from all sides of enterprises. If the enterprise can't afford separate servers, or they want to keep everything on a single server, so these are the precautions that they need to take before they configure these features or services on the production environment. So I think all the features have been installed successfully. Let me just close it out, and now I can close this off, because on the reload, finger crossed that it's going to load without any error. No, there's still one more. Okay. Request monitor. See, so I know sometimes it's painful, and that's why most of the people they just try to rush, and they click the whole parent option, which is obviously not a recommended practice and not recommended. So I know it's the third turn, but at least what we're gonna do, we're gonna secure our server request monitor, right? Yeah, we are going to do the request monitor now. Click next. Yeah, we are good. We are not going to touch anything in here, and we are going to install. Let me close it off. We just give it a couple of seconds, and hopefully it would be very quick. Meanwhile, I can close the SSRS configuration manager. So now you can see how SQL Server has been evolved over the time, and how much Microsoft has invested in the SQL Server to make it a really enterprise level database engine. So many features they have added over the time, and I would say now SQL Server is really a mature product from all scales of enterprises, especially and it is cost effective compared to Oracle or any other database where you have the capabilities, but that might cost you a little bit more. Let me close it. It's done. So now hopefully in this try, we're not going to see any issue. Looks promising. Great. So our Internet Information Services is configured. Now, next step, we are going to, because like I mentioned previously, if you remember your reporting services is also use the databases for its functionality. So similar case with the master data services, that it needs a separate database that it can use for creating, managing model, and its own functionalities that it used to perform based on the requirement. So let me hit create database, and we are now launching the database wizards. We are connecting with the current user integrated security, but keep in mind we have the SQL account, and we can use the Active Directory integrated. That means we can use Active Directory integration as well, or authentication as well. But we are going to stick with the current integrated security, and that's where, keep in mind, our production deployment is way different than our dev practices, because in the production deployment, we have our proper accounts which are securely maintained by the infrastructure team with limited rights. It's not like the service account has the sysadmin right on the database, right? Because that will open a lot of loopholes within our security model. But considering it's a dev environment, we are just working in the dev, so we have some freedom in terms of using the accounts, or giving more permission. So let me just hit test connection. Yeah, we are successfully tested connected to our database server. Let me hit next. We normally give it a name as MDS for Master Data Services, but it's you are free to give any name to your Master Data Services database, right? I'm going to use the default server collation, but you are most welcome to select the one that you want to do. And then based on that, you can define whether it's going to be case sensitive and action sensitive, and all these options are there, which are related to the collation. But at this stage, I'm just going to use SQL Server. Click next. Yeah, I'm going to use my local account, which is going to have full permission on all the models. So we're going to see in master data services, we literally create a model, and the model actually depict or portray the architecture of your standard list or standard entity that has been used across the full business full business or all the departments. So we need one account that has permission on all these, unlimited permission, or I would say full control on all these model, and you can only configure it at the start of the configuration, like during that. Later on, we can definitely allow more user, but obviously in the installation or configuration mode, we're just going to use one account, which is obviously the configuration account. So I'm comfortable with that. Let me click next. Yeah, I'm happy with the settings. So click next and let it be finish. So hopefully it won't take much time, and very soon we're gonna see that the database scripts execution are successful. Meanwhile, if I actually go back to my database, I'm gonna just show you. There you can see we have a new database called MDS, and that MDS is more like the backbone for our master data services that's going to actually be used to run the whole model. One more thing, keep in mind that master data services is only available as part of the enterprise version. I'm not sure, I need to recheck whether it is available as part of the standard, but if I remember correctly, last time when I installed the standard version in Azure, it was not there. So that means Microsoft is only offering the master data services as an enterprise license, because you're gonna see the features, and then you can understand why Microsoft is pushing to purchase the enterprise licenses, because it's a very powerful product. Let me hit finish. And we are good. You can see our instance information is populated into, and the respective fields are populated. So that part is done. We only have one last part, which is now configuring the web application, which is going to utilize the database and give us the interface so we can interact with the master data services. So to do it, we are not going to use the default internet information services or default web server. Keep in mind, as soon as you install the IIS, you're going to have the default website, which is always pointing to the local host, right? But in this case, we are going to create a new website, and you can see I can change the name, but I'm going to actually align it with the database name. So I'm just going to call it MDS. So later on I can identify. Now, one of the most important features is the port number. So all unassigned IP address we can use. We're going to use the HTTP protocol at this stage. However, the port we cannot use 80. So keep this thing in mind, guys. Once you are using the port 80 for one service, don't use it for any other service, otherwise it's impact on the functionality of the services. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to give it a custom port. So for example, 4000, you can give it any particular port. I think there's only one particular range that you cannot use to allocate those port to your own services, and if I remember, the range is between 1 to 100. I'll just post it into the description, but beside that, you can give any port number to your master data services. The only thing, once you share that link within the enterprise, the IT department or infrastructure team needs to allow that port for the HTTP or TCP communication. So I believe we are good. What I'm going to do, I'm just going to, because it's a dev server, so I'm not going to worry about putting admin account because we can live with that. But obviously in the production, we are going to have a dedicated account that we will use, and that is going to be a service account that we will use to connect to our database, and that will run against the application pool. What is application pool? It's more like the website development. So if we have some time someday, we're going to have a couple of videos on the web server and how it works, so you're going to actually learn. But at this stage, just remember that we need a service account that can be used behind this MDS application pool. So by saying it, I'm just going to hit OK. So we are going to see a message that it is only using the HTTP. However, if we want to use HTTPS, which is obviously the preferred option from Microsoft because it is more secure than HTTP, we should configure the SSL or certificate on the IS level. Again, a lot of work for our infrastructure team to implement the security, but considering we are in the dev environment, so we're lucky we can ignore this option. Hit OK, and now you can see there's a application created in the internet information service or web server, and we are going to now select the database because at the last step we're just going to bound the database with our web application that we have recently created. So you can see as soon as I connect, it automatically detect MDS because previously we have created. So that's the efficiency of the service. It kept the reference of the database that you have created in the previous step. So it picked that database. Let me click OK. And now I'm going to click apply. I think I hit it. Yeah, it's just doing it. Excellent. So it connect the application with the database, and now it's ready to launch in the browser. So let me copy that URL because what I'm going to do, I would like to show it to you on Chrome. Previously, it requires the Silverlight to run the functionality of master data services, which is no longer required, which is really great because installing Silverlight into different browser was a big pain for everyone. Thankfully, Microsoft take it out, and now all the master data services, they are running without any requirement of configuring or installing the Silverlight component. So I think we are pretty good. We are not going to look at the other option in this video, but what we're going to do, like the previous one, we are going to hit on the master data services interface, and there we go. You can see the beautiful interface for master data services is there, which we can use for configuring the master list and putting the governance around. And once I say governance, because we can put the security, we can make sure that who can touch or change this list, who can read this list. So there are a lot of governance we can place it around, and we can even standardize that nobody should have manual entry into this list. That these all the things we're gonna see in the upcoming videos. But at this stage, let me just go and create our first model. So I'm just going to hit system administration. I'm going to click add. You can see it automatically showing me the manage model. I'm going to give it a name, analytical MDS. I can give a description. Master. We're going to keep the log retention as a system setting. We are not going to specify our own days. We will just stick to the system, but obviously our production policy is going to be different. If you are not going to use, or if you want to override the system setting, you can, just click yes, and then you can put the days, and those number of days the log files are going to be retained. So I think at this stage I'm going to be good with system setting, and I'm going to hit. So just a couple of seconds and we're gonna see. Congratulations, the first model has been created, and if you look at carefully, it has already got the entities and derived hierarchies. What are the entities? What are the derived hierarchies? There are a bunch of things that we are going to look into the master data services area in the upcoming video, but I think for this video that's enough for it. Congratulations, we have now MDS installed on our server, which we're going to actually use in the next video. So stay tuned for the next video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.